Welcome back, everyone. Last two videos have looked at chapter one, uh, which was binary, hexadecimal, and some security aspects. Now we move on to chapter two, which is communication and internet technologies. Again, this will be two part. This will be a two-part video. So the main objectives would be today we'll be focusing on data transmission, and these are the objectives. So first, what is data transmission? So data transmission is sending or receiving data via cables or wireless relay systems. And it's basically, in my simplified words, it's movement of data from one part of a computer to another part in the context of computers actually. And so there are many methods of data transfer, such as copper cables, wireless radio frequencies, optical fiber shown over here, and infrareds. So first part would be looking at serial and parallel data transmission. So serial data transmission is just data is sent one bit at a time over a single wire or channel. It's very useful in transmitting data over long distances, and although the data is transmitted at a slower rate. So examples of this include synchronous and asynchronous data transmission, which we'll see further on, and USBs, which we'll also learn about further on. So parallel transmission is several bits of data are sent at the same time down several wires or channels. It works well with short distances. It's a faster method because there's more wires being used. So examples would be connection between computer and printer, infrared components of computer using parallel transmission for high speeds. Sorry, did I say infrared? It's internal components. They use it for high speeds. So now let's move on to asynchronous and synchronous data transmission. So synchronous data transmission. So it's transfer of data in a continuous stream, and it has no spaces in between characters which are being sent. So this is so that the source knows where the new byte begins, um, because there are no spaces between them. And synchronization between the source and the target is required. It's fast and effective method of transferring data. Examples are chat rooms, video conferencing, etc. Now we look at asynchronous transmission. So it's a transfer of data in an agreed bit pattern, and it's done usually in discrete groups. And this time there can be gaps in between characters, and data is grouped together and sent in control bits. And control bits are used to check if the data has been transmitted correctly and prevents the data from getting mixed up, which makes it less prone to error. Examples of this include emails and forum pages. Now we look at simplex, half duplex, and full duplex. So simplex transmission is when data transmission is a type of data transmission which occurs in one direction only. So the sender can only send the data and the receiver can only receive the data, and the receiver cannot reply to the sender as well. It's also useful to think of it like as traffic. I use traffics to make me understand the concept better. So in simplex we model this as a traffic where in which the traffic travels only in one direction, no vehicle coming from the opposite direction. It's not a so vehicle coming from the opposite direction is not allowed to drive through, so it's only one vehicle at a time. So example of this would be the transmission between a keyboard and a monitor. Next would be half duplex transmission, and in this transmission occurs in both directions but not at the same time. So the sender and receiver can both send and receive the information, but only one is allowed to send it at any given time. It's still helpful to consider it as a one-way road in which a vehicle in the opposite direction of the traffic has to wait till the road is empty before it can pass through. So examples of this include walkie-talkies. Full duplex transmission. So it's a data transmission in which occurs in both directions simultaneously. So the sender and receiver can both transmit and receive at the same time. And this can be seen now as a two-way road in which traffic can flow in both directions at the same time. So example of this would be a telephone conversation. So now we look at the last part, Universal Serial Bus, the USB. So this uses asynchronous serial data transmission method. So asynchronous would be that it's sent in discrete groups, and serial would be sent at one uh, bit at a time over a channel or a single wire. So USB consists of four shielded covers. So two wires are used for power and earth, and the other two wires are used for data transmission. So this has its own advantages and disadvantages. So for let's look at advantages first. Advantages is that it's automatically detected by the computer and it only fits one way, so that it prevents incorrect connection from happening, and it has different data transmission rates. And this the main disadvantage would be disadvantages I should say would be it has a maximum cable length of only around 5 meters, which might not be as sufficient as we need these days. It also has a slow transmission rate, less than 500 MB per second. Okay, so that was the end. I hope you learned something from it. It's short and hopefully not too complicated. The next video, uh, we'll look at we'll look at the other half of chapter.